Logan Carter stood in front of the floor-length mirror in his office, adjusting his tie with practiced precision. The silk fabric slid easily between his fingers, but his hands trembled ever so slightly. Outside the towering glass windows, the city skyline glowed with a golden hue, a reflection of the life Logan had built, an empire of steel and glass that represented years of relentless work. Today, however, that empire was at a crossroads. The deal awaiting him wasn't just another lucrative contract. It was the deal, the one that could redefine his company's future, cementing its name among the industry's giants. He glanced at the thick folder on his desk, filled with projections, contracts, and possibilities. Everything hinged on this. In the conference room across the hall, his business partner and longtime friend, Ethan Blake, was already seated. Logan could picture him now, scrolling through his phone with that calm, self-assured demeanor he always wore like a second skin. Ethan had always been the smooth talker, the one who could charm even the most skeptical of investors. Together, they had been unstoppable. Or so Logan believed. Logan took a deep breath, straightened his jacket, and stepped out of his office. His polished shoes echoed on the marble floors as he made his way to the meeting. The bustling atmosphere of the high-end cafe where the meeting was held added an unexpected layer of intensity. Around him, patrons in designer suits sipped their coffee, their quiet conversations blending with the soft clinking of cutlery. This was the world Logan thrived in, powerful, fast-paced, and demanding. Yet, as he approached the table, an unshakable unease settled over him. Ethan looked up and flashed a quick grin, one so confident that it almost masked the flicker of something darker in his eyes. Logan brushed it off, chalking it up to nerves. After all, this deal could change everything, for both of them. Logan excused himself to the restroom, leaving Ethan at the table. The weight of the upcoming negotiation pressed heavily on his chest, and he needed a moment to compose himself. As he splashed cold water on his face, he thought about how far they had come. From late nights brainstorming in his tiny apartment to multimillion-dollar deals in exclusive venues like this one. Trust had been the cornerstone of their partnership, or so he thought. Meanwhile, back at the table, a subtle but fateful moment was unfolding. Sophia, a waitress with quiet determination, approached to refill Ethan's water. She moved with practiced grace, her expression neutral as she navigated the demands of the elite clientele. But today, the usual hum of conversations faded into the background as her attention was drawn to Ethan's voice. Ethan's phone was pressed tightly to his ear, his tone hushed yet deliberate. Sophia didn't mean to eavesdrop, but his words hit her like a lightning bolt. "Yeah, everything's set," Ethan muttered, leaning slightly away from the table as if to shield his words. "Logan has no idea. Once the deal is signed, the company is mine. By the time he realizes what happened, he'll be out in the cold." Sophia's hand trembled as she poured the water. For a brief second, she nearly spilled it onto the pristine tablecloth, but she caught herself. Her heart raced as she processed what she had just heard. Betrayal. Cold, calculated betrayal. For a moment, she debated walking away. After all, who was she to intervene in the lives of these powerful men? Her job was to serve, not to meddle. But as she glanced at Ethan's smug expression, she felt a pang of anger. This wasn't just business. This was a man preparing to destroy someone who trusted him. Sophia stepped back, her mind racing. She tried to focus on her work, but every fiber of her being screamed at her to do something. She looked toward the restroom, where Logan was still absent, and then back at Ethan, who was now ending his call with a smirk. Could she really warn Logan? What if he didn't believe her? Worse, what if Ethan found out she had spoken up? Her hands clenched into fists at her sides. It didn't matter. The truth was too important to keep to herself. When Logan returned to the table, Sophia hesitated, her pulse quickening. She had already resolved to speak to him, but now that he was standing in front of her, doubt crept in. He was dressed in a tailored suit, his presence exuding confidence and control. What if he dismissed her entirely? But then she saw something in his demeanor, a vulnerability, a quiet trust in the world around him. It was clear he had no idea what Ethan was planning. That thought made her stomach churn. She took a deep breath and approached. "Excuse me, Mr. Carter," she said, her voice trembling slightly. Logan turned to her, his brow furrowed. "Yes?" Sophia hesitated, her palms sweating as she clutched the edge of her tray. "I don't mean to intrude, but I overheard something just now. Something about your partner, Mr. Blake." Logan's expression softened with confusion. "What do you mean?" I overheard him on the phone," Sophia continued, her voice lowering. "He was talking about the deal. He said that once it's signed, the company will be his, and you'd be left with nothing." The words hung heavy in the air. Logan blinked, his mind struggling to process what she had just said. "That's impossible," he said finally, his voice edged with disbelief. "You must have misunderstood." Sophia shook her head firmly. "I know I'm just a waitress, and you have no reason to trust me, but I wouldn't be telling you this if I wasn't sure. He said you wouldn't see it coming." Logan leaned back in his chair, the bustling noise of the cafe fading into the background. His mind raced, replaying years of partnership, late nights, and mutual victories. Ethan had been there for all of it. The idea of betrayal was almost unthinkable, but Sophia's earnestness planted a seed of doubt. Her hands were shaking, her voice unsteady, but her eyes held a sincerity he couldn't ignore. "Thank you," Logan said after a long pause. I'll look into it." Sophia nodded, relief washing over her face. She glanced toward the cafe's glass doors, where Ethan now stood outside, pacing on his phone again. "I just hope I'm wrong," she murmured. Logan forced a tight smile. "So do I." But as he watched Ethan through the glass, the doubt grew stronger, twisting like a knot in his gut. If what Sophia said was true, then everything he had worked for, everything he believed in, was at risk. Logan's unease lingered as the meeting progressed, Ethan's charm and easy smile now appearing as a mask rather than the genuine warmth Logan had always trusted. Every laugh, every casual remark felt calculated, and Logan could no longer ignore the nagging suspicion planted by Sophia. That evening, after Ethan left the cafe, Logan sat alone in his car, staring at the contract folder resting on the passenger seat. His mind replayed Sophia's words. "You wouldn't see it coming." He pulled out his phone and scrolled through his contacts until he found a familiar name. Julian Wells, a private investigator he had hired years ago during a contentious merger. Julian was thorough, discreet, and trusted. If anyone could uncover the truth, it was him. "Julian," Logan said when the call connected, his voice tight. "I need you to look into someone for me." "Ethan Blake, my business partner." There was a brief pause. "What are we looking for?" Julian asked. His tone was sharp, professional. "Anything unusual? Bank activity, secret meetings, communications with competitors?" Logan's knuckles whitened as he gripped the steering wheel. "Something doesn't feel right." "Understood," Julian replied. "Give me 48 hours. I'll be in touch." Logan ended the call and leaned back in his seat, exhaling heavily. For years, Ethan had been his closest ally. They had built their company together, navigating the highs and lows of the cutthroat business world. The possibility that Ethan could betray him was both devastating and infuriating. The next 2 days were agonizing. Logan threw himself into work, but his thoughts constantly drifted to the investigation. He scrutinized every interaction with Ethan, replaying past conversations and questioning moments he had once overlooked. Was there a time when Ethan's loyalty had started to waver? Had there been signs Logan missed? On the second evening, Julian called back. Logan answered immediately, his heart pounding. "Logan," Julian began, his voice steady but grim. "You're not going to like what I found." Logan's office was bathed in the warm glow of city lights when Ethan arrived later that evening. The setting was intimate yet cold, a stark contrast to the friendly camaraderie they had once shared. Ethan walked in with his usual confidence, flashing a broad smile. "You wanted to see me?" Ethan asked, dropping into a chair across from Logan's desk. Logan sat in silence for a moment, his fingers steepled under his chin. He studied Ethan, the man he had trusted with everything. The silence stretched, heavy and uncomfortable. "What's going on?" Ethan asked, his smile faltering. "I know everything," Logan said, his voice low but resolute. "The offshore accounts. The stolen funds. Your communications with our competitors. I know what you've been planning. Ethan froze, his expression flickering between shock and calculation. For a moment, he looked like the friend Logan had known for years, but then a smirk curled at the edges of his lips. You've been working too hard, Logan, Ethan said, leaning back in his chair. You're imagining things. Logan slammed a folder onto the desk, the sound echoing in the room. Don't lie to me, Ethan. I've seen the transfers. I know about the meetings. You've been planning this for over a year. Ethan's mask slipped, replaced by a sneer. Fine, he hissed, leaning forward. Yeah, I planned it. Do you have any idea what it's like standing in your shadow while you get all the credit? I deserve more, Logan. And I wasn't going to wait around for scraps. Logan's jaw tightened as anger boiled in his chest. You could have talked to me. We could have worked something out. But instead, you decided to steal. To betray me. Ethan laughed bitterly. You wouldn't have done anything. You're too busy being the golden boy, the perfect CEO. I did what I had to do. No, Logan said, his voice cold and steady. You didn't have to do this. And now you're done. The accounts are frozen. The evidence is in my hands. It's over. Ethan's face twisted in rage. You think this is over? You think you've won? He stood abruptly, his chair scraping against the floor. I'll make sure you regret this, Logan. Logan stood as well, towering over Ethan with a quiet but formidable presence. Get out of my sight, he said, his tone final. Ethan stormed out, slamming the door behind him. The sound echoed through the empty office, leaving Logan alone with the aftermath of the confrontation. Logan sank back into his chair, his head in his hands. The weight of Ethan's betrayal bore down on him like a physical burden. He had fought too hard, sacrificed too much, to let it all fall apart now. But as painful as the betrayal was, Logan felt a flicker of determination. He wouldn't let Ethan destroy everything he had built. He picked up his phone and called Julian. Julian, Logan said, his voice firm. I want everything locked down. Accounts, communications, anything Ethan could use to hurt the company. And start preparing a case. I want this handled. Understood, Julian replied. As Logan ended the call, he glanced at his desk. His reflection stared back at him from the polished wood, a reminder of the man he needed to be. The storm was far from over, but Logan Carter was ready to fight. The next morning, Logan Carter awoke to his phone buzzing incessantly on his bedside table. He groaned, reaching for it, but the sight of the caller ID jolted him fully awake. It was Julian. What is it? Logan asked, sitting up. Ethan's already making his move, Julian said, his tone sharp. He's leaking stories to the media, painting you as corrupt. Offshore accounts, embezzlement, insider trading. The works. Most of it is baseless, but he's weaving in just enough truth to make it stick. Logan clenched his jaw. How bad is it? It's early, but the first article went live an hour ago on a major business blog. Investors are panicking, and your competitors are already circling like vultures. This could spiral fast if we don't get ahead of it. Logan exhaled heavily, running a hand through his hair. What do we do? We've got evidence to discredit him, Julian said, but it's going to take time to control the narrative. You'll need to reassure your board and investors in the meantime. Logan ended the call and immediately began crafting a strategy. By the time he reached his office, the storm was in full force. His inbox was flooded with messages from concerned investors, and the company's stock had already taken a slight dip. Sophia was waiting for him near his office door, clutching a printout of the article. Her eyes blazed with determination. Have you seen this? She asked, holding the paper out to him. I have, Logan replied grimly. This is all lies, she said, her voice rising. What can I do to help? Her sincerity caught Logan off guard. Despite the chaos, she stood firm, ready to fight. It reminded him why he had come to trust her. Stay by my side, Logan said. We need to keep the team focused and the investors calm. This won't be easy, but I'm not letting Ethan win. For the next several days, Logan worked tirelessly with Julian and his legal team to counter the attacks. Detailed press releases were issued, backed by hard evidence of Ethan's betrayal. Key investors were brought into private meetings to restore confidence. Slowly, the tide began to turn. Throughout it all, Sophia was a constant presence. She coordinated with staff, drafted statements, and even stepped in to calm nervous clients. Her quick thinking and unwavering support were invaluable, and Logan found himself relying on her more than he had ever expected. It was late one evening when Logan finally noticed Sophia still at her desk. The office was quiet, most of the staff having gone home hours ago. Yet there she was, surrounded by files and glowing screens, her brow furrowed in concentration. "You should go home," Logan said, leaning against the doorway of her cubicle. "I'm almost done," Sophia replied, flashing him a small, tired smile. Logan shook his head. "Sophia, you've done more than enough. I don't know how I would have gotten through this without you." She looked up at him, her expression warm but modest. "You would have managed, but I'm glad I could help." Logan hesitated for a moment, then stepped closer. "You're not just helping. You've become an essential part of this company. Have you ever thought about taking on a bigger role?" Sophia blinked, taken aback. "A bigger role?" "Yes," Logan said firmly. "You've proven yourself over and over again. I think it's time to make it official." The next day, Logan gathered the staff for an announcement. As they assembled in the conference room, whispers filled the air. When Logan stepped forward with Sophia by his side, the room fell silent. "Over the past few weeks, we've faced challenges that could have brought us to our knees," Logan began. "But we've come through stronger, thanks to people like Sophia." He turned to her, his expression filled with respect. Sophia's dedication, courage, and quick thinking have been instrumental in protecting this company. Today, I'm proud to announce her promotion to a leadership role. She's not just part of our team. She's part of our future. The applause was thunderous. Sophia's cheeks flushed, but she stood tall, her heart swelling with pride. The transition was seamless. In her new role, Sophia thrived, earning the respect of her colleagues and proving herself to be a natural leader. Her journey from waitress to a key figure in Logan's company was nothing short of extraordinary, and she was determined to make the most of the opportunity. For Logan, watching Sophia rise to the occasion was a reminder of the strength and resilience that could emerge in even the darkest times. Together, they had faced betrayal and chaos, but now they were building something stronger, a foundation of trust, integrity, and hope. The storm wasn't over, but Logan knew one thing for certain. With Sophia by his side, there was nothing they couldn't overcome. 2 weeks after the media storm began, Logan received another call from Julian. This time, his investigator's voice carried a weight of finality. "We've got him, Logan," Julian said. Logan's pulse quickened. "What do you mean?" "We traced Ethan's communications back to a private suite at a luxury hotel downtown. He's been working around the clock, spinning lies to anyone who will listen. Journalists, rival CEOs, even your own investors. But his resources are dwindling and desperation is setting in." "There's more." Logan leaned forward in his chair. "Go on." "We've also uncovered records tying him to illegal offshore transactions, fraud, embezzlement, and, potentially, collusion with dangerous third parties. It's damning enough to bring law enforcement into the picture." Logan's jaw tightened. For all of Ethan's scheming, he had been careless. "What do we do next?" "First, we tip off the authorities. Then, we freeze the last of his accounts and ensure he has no financial leverage left." "This ends now, Logan." Logan nodded, his resolve hardening. "Do it." That evening, as Logan reviewed the finalized plans with his legal team, Sophia entered his office. Her expression was firm, yet her eyes carried a hint of concern. "They've frozen the accounts," she said, setting a document on his desk. "And Julian says the authorities are moving in. Ethan's out of options." Logan let out a long breath, the tension in his shoulders finally easing. "It's about time." Sophia hesitated before sitting across from him. "You've handled this with so much strength. I don't know if I could have done the same." Logan offered her a faint smile. "I didn't do it alone. You've been my anchor through all of this." Sophia's cheeks flushed slightly, but she met his gaze with quiet confidence. "It's what you deserve, for someone to have your back." 2 days later, the news broke. Ethan Blake had been arrested on charges of fraud and embezzlement. The story was picked up by every major outlet, painting him as a disgraced businessman whose greed and betrayal had led to his downfall. For Logan, the victory was bittersweet. Ethan had been more than a partner. He had been a friend. The sting of betrayal lingered, but justice had been served. The next week, Logan called a company-wide meeting. The room buzzed with anticipation as employees filled the conference hall. The past few weeks had been tumultuous, but the tide was finally turning, and everyone was eager to hear what Logan had to say. When he stepped up to the podium, the room fell silent. Logan's presence commanded attention, but this time, his demeanor carried a warmth that hadn't been there before. "We've been through challenges that could have broken us," Logan began, his voice steady yet reflective. "The betrayal we faced wasn't just a threat to our company. It was a blow to the trust we've built together. But we didn't let it defeat us." He paused, scanning the room. "And we owe that resilience to people like Sophia. When the storm hit, she didn't hesitate to step up. Her courage and integrity reminded us all of what this company truly stands for." Logan turned toward Sophia, who stood near the front of the room, her hands clasped nervously. "Sophia, you've been more than an employee. You've been a leader, a confidant, and a symbol of what we can achieve when we stand together. Today, we recognize not only your contributions but your unwavering spirit." The applause was deafening. Sophia's eyes glistened as she stepped forward, shaking Logan's hand as he handed her a plaque symbolizing her new role. "Thank you," she said, her voice steady despite the overwhelming emotion in her chest. "This company isn't just a workplace, it's a family, and I'm honored to be a part of its future." As the applause died down, Logan addressed the staff once more. "We're not just rebuilding, we're moving forward. Together, we'll create something stronger than ever before. The storm may have tested us, but it didn't define us. And now, we shape our future." The meeting ended with a sense of renewed purpose. For Logan, it was a moment of closure, not just for the ordeal with Ethan, but for the doubts and fears that had plagued him. With Sophia by his side and the company united, he knew they were ready for whatever came next. In the days that followed, Sophia's leadership continued to shine. She spearheaded new initiatives, fostered trust among the team, and worked tirelessly to ensure the company's values remained intact. For Logan, watching her thrive was a reminder that even in the darkest times, hope and resilience could lead to extraordinary outcomes. The chapter with Ethan was closed, but a new chapter was just beginning. One defined not by betrayal but by trust, growth, and an unshakable belief in the power of integrity. In the weeks following Ethan's arrest, Logan Carter poured his energy into stabilizing the company. Investors, once wary, had regained their confidence thanks to Logan's transparency and the steady hand of his team. But there was more work to be done. Logan wasn't just interested in restoring what they had lost. He wanted to reshape the company into something stronger and more resilient. Sophia became an integral part of this vision. She worked tirelessly, often late into the night, crafting strategies to rebuild the company's image. Her dedication was contagious, inspiring the team around her to push through the lingering unease left by Ethan's betrayal. One evening, as Logan reviewed a report in his office, Sophia walked in with a folder in hand. Her expression was determined, but her eyes carried a hint of excitement. "I've been analyzing the feedback from investors and clients," she said, setting the folder on his desk. "There's an opportunity here, not just to recover, but to innovate." Logan raised an eyebrow. "Go on." Sophia's confidence grew as she outlined her plan. It wasn't just about restoring trust, but about implementing new initiatives that prioritized ethical practices and transparency. From community outreach programs to environmentally sustainable operations, her ideas were bold and forward-thinking. Logan leaned back in his chair, a slow smile spreading across his face. "This is ambitious," he said, "but I think it's exactly what we need." Sophia smiled, her cheeks flushing slightly. "I wouldn't have had the courage to suggest it a few months ago." "Well," Logan said, his tone warm, "you've more than proven yourself. Let's make it happen." Together, they began laying the groundwork for a new era at the company, one that reflected the lessons learned through hardship. The transformation wasn't just external, it was personal. For Logan, It was about rebuilding his faith in people. For Sophia, it was about embracing the role she had worked so hard to earn. 2 months later, Logan received a call from Julian. This time, the investigator's tone was lighter, almost triumphant. "It's official," Julian said. "Ethan pled guilty to the charges. He's facing a hefty prison sentence, and the funds he siphoned have been fully recovered." Logan let out a breath he hadn't realized he was holding. Good. It's about time. As he ended the call, a sense of closure washed over him. Ethan's betrayal had been unwound, but justice had brought the healing he needed to move forward. The next day, Logan gathered his team for another meeting. This time, the atmosphere was lighter, filled with hope and determination. Standing at the front of the room, Logan spoke with a renewed sense of purpose. "We've faced challenges that tested every one of us," he began, "but we came through it stronger. Today, I'm proud to say that we're not just surviving, we're thriving. And that's because of the incredible people in this room." He turned to Sophia, who sat near the front. "I want to especially thank Sophia for her unwavering dedication and courage. She reminded us all of what integrity truly means." The room erupted into applause as Sophia stood, her face glowing with pride. Later that evening, as the office emptied, Logan found himself sitting across from Sophia in the conference room. The city skyline glittered outside the windows, a backdrop to their quiet conversation. "You've done so much for this company," Logan said. "But I want to ask, what do you want, Sophia? You've been putting everyone else first. It's time you thought about yourself." Sophia hesitated, her fingers tracing the edge of her notebook. "I want to keep growing, to make a real impact," she said. "Not just here, but in the world." Logan smiled. "Then let's make that happen. Together." In the months that followed, Sophia's initiatives transformed the company. They partnered with local charities, reduced their environmental footprint, and launched mentorship programs for young professionals. The results were tangible, not just in profits, but in the renewed spirit of the organization. For Logan, the journey had been one of rediscovery. The betrayal that had nearly broken him had instead revealed his strength and the loyalty of those who truly mattered. With Sophia by his side, he felt ready to face any challenge. The past would always be a part of their story, but it no longer defined them. Together, they were building something new, something stronger. And for the first time in years, Logan felt not just hope but excitement for the future. As the months turned into a year, Logan Carter's company evolved into a symbol of resilience and integrity. The media, once fixated on Ethan's betrayal, now praised Logan for his leadership and vision. But it wasn't just the business that flourished. Logan had changed too. The experience had humbled him, taught him the value of vigilance, and deepened his appreciation for loyalty. Sophia, now a senior executive, spearheaded many of the company's groundbreaking projects. Her approach wasn't just about innovation. It was about making a difference. Under her leadership, the company expanded its mentorship programs, helping young professionals from underserved communities. These efforts resonated deeply with Logan, who realized that the business could be more than just a profit machine. It could be a force for good. One of their most ambitious initiatives was a new training program for employees, focused on cultivating ethical leadership. Sophia and Logan personally led the program's first session, sharing their journey with the staff. Their story of betrayal and recovery became a beacon of hope for others, showing that even in the darkest moments, trust and perseverance could lead to triumph. On the night of the program's launch, Logan hosted a company gala to celebrate their progress. As he watched his employees mingling, smiling, and toasting to their success, he felt a profound sense of accomplishment. Sophia approached him, her eyes glowing with excitement. "This is only the beginning," she said. "There's so much more we can do." Logan nodded, his voice steady. "You're right. And I couldn't have done any of this without you, Sophia. You've been the heart of this transformation." Sophia's cheeks flushed, but she met his gaze with unwavering confidence. "And you've been its strength. Together, we've proven that no challenge is too great." Despite the success and the closure Ethan's downfall had brought, there was one part of Logan's journey that still felt unfinished. Though Ethan was gone, the memory of their friendship lingered like a shadow. It wasn't just the betrayal that haunted Logan. It was the loss of someone he had once trusted like a brother. One evening, after a long day at the office, Logan received an unexpected call from Julian. "There's something you should know," Julian said, his voice unusually measured. "Ethan reached out to me. He's in prison, but he wants to talk to you." Logan froze, the weight of Julian's words sinking in. Part of him wanted to refuse, to let Ethan's voice remain silenced. But another part, the part that had spent years valuing loyalty, felt compelled to hear him out. A week later, Logan found himself sitting across from Ethan in the sterile visiting room of the prison. Ethan looked thinner, his once confident demeanor replaced by a subdued air of regret. "I didn't think you'd come," Ethan said, his voice quiet. "I almost didn't," Logan admitted. "Why did you want to see me?" Ethan hesitated, his hands clasped tightly together. "I've had a lot of time to think in here," he said, "about what I did to you, to the company, to myself. I don't expect you to forgive me, but I needed to tell you. I'm sorry." Logan studied Ethan for a long moment, his emotions a complex mix of anger, sadness, and a faint glimmer of closure. "You destroyed something we built together," Logan said finally. "But you also reminded me of what's truly important: trust, integrity, and the people who stand by you. If there's anything I can take from this, it's that lesson." Ethan nodded, his expression somber. "I don't deserve your forgiveness, but I hope you can move on." "I already have," Logan replied, standing. "Take care, Ethan." As Logan walked out of the prison, he felt a weight lift from his shoulders. It wasn't forgiveness he had given, it was closure. Ethan's betrayal would always be a scar, but it no longer defined him. Back at the office, Logan found Sophia waiting for him. She looked up from her desk, her expression curious. "How did it go?" she asked softly. Logan smiled faintly. "It's over. For good." Sophia nodded, her presence a steady comfort. "Then it's time to focus on what's ahead." Logan glanced around the office, at the bustling energy of a company he had rebuilt from the ground up. With Sophia by his side, the future felt brighter than ever. As they continued their journey together, Logan and Sophia knew they weren't just leading a company, they were shaping a legacy. One built on trust, resilience, and the belief that even in the face of betrayal, there was always a path to something greater. The scars of the past remained, but they were no longer burdens. They were reminders of how far they had come and how much they could achieve. Together, they faced the future, ready to conquer whatever challenges lay ahead.